Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, our friend Tony D is joining us. Again, we are trying to work out some of the kinks and the bugs. I'm assuming, Tony, that you can hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. And good morning, Lee Elci. Good morning, everybody. Proud to be among you, and I'm just believing we're coming through okay out there in Radio Land.
All right, right now it looks like it's okay on my end. There's a couple issues with my headphones, but I'm hoping that there's not a loud buzz. If anybody out there is listening, and sometimes Radio Land can actually get stuff that we don't get here in the studio. If there's a loud buzz, please email me and let me know, or text me and let me know. So, Tony, good morning. We'll just go through it. We'll hopefully we can get the message out there. But where did you want to begin today?
Well, let's talk about energy policy, or a lack thereof, if we may. I've been following here with interest this thing in Hartford about. We're really in the soup in this state for a lot of reasons, and now it's a special session of the legislature, and we're working with really beggarly crumbs once again when there's really no reason for any of this to happen. And I'm reading an article here from the Hartford Courant, I believe it was last week, and we've got people now. The Minority Leader of the Senate, Kevin Kelly, saying we have to dip into the state treasury to help families, and it's the same old tired song, which has made me very angry. And it's the same beggarly mess. And after we're through all the election obfuscation and the stupid non-issue based campaigning, and we were screaming, literally screaming on these airwaves, at least I was, or others were, that in July of this year, we saw an event, and the event was the passage of AB 5 in California, which was the anti-independent trucker, shall we say, legislation. And what that did was put a severe cramp in the supply chain of the United States of America, because when you shut down, 70,000 independent truckers who move goods and services across the country, it's a ripple effect. Any bean brain knows this. I mean, anybody that's ever run a business, if you worked on a line, if you worked in any sort of thing where one thing leads to another, we all saw this happening, but what we basically got, largely was nothing. And now what we're getting out of Hartford is, this is a national calamity. It's beyond our control. And, this is the typical Connecticut thing. You react instead of proact. And because look at what's about to happen. And this is what's so galling to me. And literally I sound like my father. I'm going to put my head through the wall. We've got an impending national rail strike, largely because we're governed by idiots. And, we have a non-existent transportation secretary. So look at it this way. It does not take a genius to figure this stuff out locally. You don't have trucks bringing things across, so where do you go? You go to rail. Now, rail stress. What does rail rely on? Electricity and national gas. Ba-boom, ba-bang, here we are. And we've been so, there is nothing here that is, a national calamity that could not have been dealt with the facilitation of fossil fuel-based energy into the state. We've been in happy hydrogen land, basically. And hydrogen ain't going to help us now. We're going to be in the soup very, very quickly. So today I'm angry. I'm just angry at anybody wearing a political uniform. You knew about this. You didn't act. You did stupid stuff. And now we're in the soup. You're bald, my friend.
Sorry about that. That was the wrong button. that was the mistake, Mike. Yeah, Tony, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the state of the state is been brought to its knees by the leadership of this, not only the state but the country as well. We have inept leaders at the top, and it's followed right here through at Hartford. And there's not a concerted effort. I mean, there was a vote to extend some relief for home heating oil. I don't know if you saw that, but here in Hartford they did. So there was that. I mean, I guess they felt like they had to do that. But in a general sense, what is really being done by the legislators to help the common everyday person, the hardworking American? I feel like very little. Like, what does Dick Blumenthal do for folks who are living in, let's say, Moosup or in Ledyard, for that matter? Or
throw money. Simple as that, just as difficult.
Right, exactly.
And talk about how horrible everything is, but there's no infrastructure fix. There's no creative thought. I mean,
Nothing.
Where I was crying in July saying we have very well-paid agency heads in the state, Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety, social services. It's like, this is what you're supposed to do, but we pay these people very well. Literally, Lee Elci, what the hell did they do other than take these great salaries and go to Florida, and Connecticut can't tax their pension? I'm getting very tired of this.
Well,
and they're enabled by the legislature, and the legislature turns to us and says, or Ned, this is a state calamity. It's not a state calamity.
Right.
It is a problem in proacting where you saw this and you did nothing, and now we're back begging. It's so sick.
You've said this over and over again, and you are so right on the bullseye with it. There is no imaginative thought at all with not all local political leaders or national leaders.
Not every single person.
Not every single. I'm painting with a broad brush, but nobody's thinking outside the box. Because nobody wants to take a chance, Tony, that their idea is ridiculed or scorned, or because it may cost them votes next time they want to keep their power. So same old is the way to go, and that to me is unacceptable. But that's what people accept, and we saw that in the election. People are okay with being cold, being poorer, being weaker, if you will, as a nation. They seem like they're okay with it. They came out and voted in record numbers for it.
All of the above. And I was so tired. We were talking about corruption, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but how corruption was impacting us negatively, to the nth degree. And, we would get back, it's not a kitchen table issue. Well, what is more kitchen table issue, bean-brained, than eating and being warm? Because that's where we are right now. And it's a failure to advocate, to proact, to campaign. I mean, this is like, God, my first wife would always say this, God help us if we were bombed. I mean, it's like, we don't even need a bomb. We could destroy ourselves, for crying out loud.
Isn't that where we're headed? I mean, that's what some of the great philosophers have said in history, or even, I think it was Abraham Lincoln or Benjamin Franklin said the same thing. It's going to come from within. That's how we're going to ultimately fall. It's not going to be outside forces. We're too strong for that. We're too mighty for that. But brick by brick, they are chipping away at that foundation right now as we speak. The powers in Washington are breaking us down. There's cracks in the foundation of this great country. That's how we're going to fall, if we ever fall, Tony.
Well, and it's so amazing to me. It's that, and we were yelling about, there's no policy here. There's no policy in this campaign. There's no policy in this government. Once again, because we have no economy. Nobody in the right mind, other than some Ned bribe, would come to Connecticut to do anything. So what we've got here is not energy policy, infrastructure. We've got charity once again, and it's a question of, who gets the most in begging. I mean, this is beyond stupid and sick. It's like, this will make my brains explode. And let me just say this. There is a fixation on hydrogen power. I've got nothing against hydrogen power, but we ain't there yet, people. Right. So that if, Ned is in the, shall we say, the hydrogen, whatever you want to call it, consortium with the neighboring states, that's great. Bob Stefanowski was involved in hydrogen power. That's great. But we're not there just yet, so that when we have people in government who basically, are somewhat involved in what they're doing and can somehow, make something out of it, people suffer. I mean, it's like, I don't know what to say other than that. It's a terrible thing when it's going to start hitting us very, very soon. And, we needed, right now you've got a borderline emergency situation. If it were me, if I were Ned, I would sign an executive order, no diesel tax. We've got to stock these shelves. We've got parents that can't get, patent medicines for their children. I mean, idiot, what are you thinking about? This is what amazes me.
Right, and the common sense approach would probably solve all of these issues. Me and you are on the same page. When hydrogen works, fine, make it happen. When solar really works, I'm on board. Wind power works, I'm on board. But don't make me subsidize these programs. I don't mind let's say the experimentation of them to try to get them to that point where they're worthy of being mainstream. But you can't expect huge government subsidies for electric cars that don't work. I mean, it doesn't make any. It's a waste of my money, and it's unfair. You know who it hurts the most? And I just got a very interesting text from one of our listeners, Larry. It hurts the lower middle class folks.
Absolutely. Fossil fuels kill the working, the lack of fossil fuel policy kills the working class. Pretty much you're telling anybody with a truck who does carpentry, a girl going to a restaurant to wait tables, you're pretty much telling them to screw off.
100%.
And I'm just so tired of it. And it's like, who do you blame on this? I mean, me, myself, and I this morning, I blame anybody wearing a political uniform. You saw it.
Yep.
You knew about it. Basic elementary reasoning takes you to this point, and you did nothing.
I got to also add, too, Tony, and I don't hate to do this, but it needs to be said, is that, yes, we can blame the political class, but you can also blame the people who are listening to us right now who decided to vote that way, that apathy, or that just either indecision or uneducated voter who goes and votes because there's a D by somebody's name and they don't do any research. This is why we're in the state that we're in. It's the people's fault. The people have made this choice, and it's a bad one. They made a poor choice again.
Well, and this is what I tell people. It's that, if you think things are okay now, you have to ask yourself, what are they going to be, 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now? It is amazing to me. It is absolutely, or maybe it isn't amazing to me, that whatever Ned promised, Ned's been like 0 for 4 on every single election promise he made. The whatever you want to call it, the hero bonuses, well, I can't pay for that. The digital currency group, well, they're going to keep their job commitment. And it's like, and I think to your point, Lee Elci, when do people begin to realize that, they're being lied to? It's up to them to bombard legislators and say, look, think, act, proact, react. I can do so much here. I'm grateful to do that. But, you need a whole lot more people doing a whole lot more stuff to change, things that are happening here, basically.
Tony D'Angelo is our guest, and I did not give him a proper introduction because we were testing things out, which we still are. Tony D'Angelo 7 is his Twitter, and you need to follow that. Every time he posts something, he gets a whole bunch of hits and a lot of traction on that. It's a must follow and a must read whenever he posts something up there. All right, so you want to go from that to digital currency?
Well, yeah, and it's interesting, and it's interesting not in a good way. And again, I apologize for being angry today because this stuff just got to me, yesterday as I was telling you about, because we're going to see the what fly very soon here. Think about what's happened here, all the championings, all of the Ned things, all of the wonderful things of, we've got Semaphore and we've got the digital currency group and we've got this and we've got that, and we've been talking about that since time immemorial. Ned's two flagships, Semaphore and digital currency group, they could both be bankrupt within 2 weeks. Great job, government. Great job. We love you dearly. I mean, Semaphore yesterday closed at 43 cents a share. I mean, when your stock price is that low, nobody's lending you any money. Nobody believes in anything that you're doing. I mean, you're basically like the last 4 soldiers on Bataan trying to fight your brains out, for crying out loud. And then digital currency group. I mean, for all of the stuff, for all of the thing of this is wonderful, this is great. Things are going to. We need more economic projects like this. I'm going to direct you. Where we said last week where there was this uncovered liability in the whole Samuel Bankman-Fried FTX debacle. There's a very good article, which is in the deep dive, the Digital Currency Group debacle explained. I tweeted it out yesterday. And basically it tells you about Barry Silber, the guy in Digital Currency Group, how he was running this enterprise. Now, state money's behind it. Everybody's sharing. The politicians are lining up. He basically was running this thing as if there's never going to be a rainy day. There's not a downside to any of this. His big, shall we say, subsidiary, Genesis, was first saying, we have no exposure to FTX. A day later, November 9th, they say they have $7 million of losses. And then on November 10th, they say they have $175 million in losses. I mean, when you have basically, shall we say, commercial business run by children that are backed by governments, it's not going to turn out well. And now they are $1.1 billion in the hole. No way. I mean, God only knows what the state, we saw Ned investing in it, or Ned's family investing in it during this month. And where it basically comes down to is that this guy was in some sort of, or is in some sort of a false reality bubble where he was taking investments into Digital Currency Group, your state money at work, right, and he's investing in something called Decentraland. And if I'm pronouncing that right, and basically what it is, it's that virtual reality purchases of real estate in the metaverse. We've got children. We were saying this yesterday. We got children that can't get school lunches in the state, and our economic development geniuses are backing somebody in this state who is investing in virtual reality real estate. I mean, this is how insane it is. And I mean, millions of dollars that we stake to these corporations. And I mean, they're going to go bankrupt after we've given them millions of dollars a day. So what? It's great. I believe me. I mean, I like to put my head through the computer.
Well, I tell you, we talked about this in the past, this metaverse, this virtual reality. And there are reports. Listen, I don't understand it. I don't want to. But there are out there, people out there spending real money to buy pieces of property.
Virtual, yeah, just
by a
imagination.
Lake. Yeah, an imagination land. Okay, if that's a direction where some of the folks are headed, okay, fine. The ultra rich can go play in that wasteland. But to me, like you had just said, people are having trouble putting food on the table, gas in the car, gas in the tank. This is nonsense stuff, in particular for state money to go into something like this.
Well, and there's no oversight, and there's no control, and, God only knows. I mean, I'm going to get these documents for Digital Currency Group and just to see what kind of a sweetheart deal. I mean, Semaphore was sickening enough. A 2%, $11.5 million sweetheart loan, basically that we're never, ever, ever going to get paid back. And basically, they're all running from this as if, wasn't my fault, it was everybody's fault. It was terrible. We don't even know if these COVID tests were any damn good. That's right. Basically, this is Connecticut, folks. It's terrible.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit of that story yesterday about how COVID they did these tests and some of them got double paid, and we don't even know if what they did was even accurate. Some of these tests came back positive. The next day it was negative. The day after that it was positive again. It was a colossal waste of time.
And they're all fleeing the burning building. Yeah. And believe me, Lee Elci, as long as I am here, as long as I am blessed to be on these airways, I'm going to remind our dear people. Where you say this is the government you want. Look, people, you got to change this thing. I mean, basically, it's this is what we've got because we've allowed this to happen. It's a shame. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. We have a gentleman been waiting on hold for like 20 minutes. I don't know. Maybe he's got something to add. So let's quickly go to Eric while we got an extra 90 seconds. Eric, you want to talk to Tony D?
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Lee. Tony, you're my favorite guests of Lee's. I'll tell you right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I've been listening to all this, and my mind goes back to all the zombie-themed movies that we had seen for like 5 to 10 years. I think I'm realizing that those movies and those themes and those stories were prescient because the people who are leading us right now, it seems, are zombies. Honest to God. And let me explain a little bit. I have a website in front of me, and I'll give you the letters. https://www.byronwine.com. BYRONWINE. All right. Now, in this package is a title of energy information. Okay, and he asks, so you think we have an energy problem? No, we have a political problem. I hear all this stuff about wind and solar and how we don't have the technology to do this, we don't have the technology to do that. You know, did you realize that there is, let me see if I can find it here, the Ogle carburetor, for example, gets 200 to 300 miles per gallon. It's not atomized fuel. Now, I have an engineering background. I've studied this stuff. These politicians couldn't pour urine out of a boot if the instructions were printed on the heel. I don't know why people listen to them, but that's the part of the problem. We are in a matrix, guys. The Moray device. Tom Moray, in the late 20s, had a device that could sit on a kitchen table and produce 50,000 watts of power from a field that surrounds the Earth. Al Bielek referred to it, if memory serves, as the Duroc C field. Okay, what I'm getting at is we have a ton of rat hole suppressed information that is being denied to us by these powers that be. And I've been banging my head against the wall for the longest time trying to figure out why we do not access these very clear solutions. So, your take, guys.
Listen, Eric, I can't disagree. I mean, it's, I go back to the premise of government by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Not an oligarchy, because basically that's what we have. And, we're now watching that last 5 minutes of the movie that you refer to.
Yeah, well, here's, I'll give you one more. Permanent magnet motor. Howard Johnson was granted, not the guy with the restaurants, this was another Howard Johnson, was granted U.S. patent number 4151431 for a motor that is powered only by permanent magnets. Why the hell aren't we seeing this stuff on the market, in the news, displayed out for everybody to see that would solve these problems literally overnight? Is the question that's been banging around in my hollow skull now for a long time, guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, simple beans. I mean, I try to be an optimistic kid, not that I'm a kid, but, the light's got to go on somewhere. If it doesn't go on now, I mean, we're just headed off into the dark ages, and really it's just due to stupidity and a lack of vision.
All right, a couple things. Eric, thank you for the call. We're going to run out of time, though. Tony, as always, great stuff. Tony D'Angelo 7, you can follow him. Normally, he will repost this segment up on his Twitter. If you can't find it there, you can always go to SoundCloud and find the whole show. You can get it there as well. Tony, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you fighting.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.